A man in all white stands in front of a pillar of stone wall with an arch in the middle that appears to be an entrance, which is sealed by pillars as well. Andre Louis descends into what seems like the depths of the earth and wakes up covered in mud in a dark, desolate landscape. He wipes his face and looks around, disoriented. It feels like waking from a long dream, only to realize he no longer belongs to the world of the living. He's struck by an unexpected truth. Life continues in different stages. Around him, souls wander through the foggy, dreary terrain. He has awakened in another dimension, umbral, a kind of purgatory, and his story is just beginning again. He flashes back to his youth, called by his mother as she sits at a round table in the garden with his father and grandmother. He kisses her and greets the others. In umbral, he loses all sense of time and place, feeling pain in both his body and soul. He wanders aimlessly through the landscape. He walks through the desolation, lightning flashing and thunder rumbling. The scene shifts to the past. He descends the stairs and tells his son to go out and play. He gazes out the window at his children playing and his wife gardening. Reflecting, he realizes appearances can deceive. Our darkness often hides behind false tranquility, but eventually it resurfaces, and it's never too late.
Vi que nem sempre as aparências indicam a realidade.
Back in umbral, spirits writhe and moan in pain. He collapses by muddy, gurgling water, scoops up a handful, and drinks. Examining the pain in his stomach, he's suddenly chased by a group calling him out for killing himself and blaming him. He flees alone. In the bleak landscape, he lies moaning on a stone, a realm of devastation he merely survives. Nearby, a spirit pleads for forgiveness. 3 white-clothed figures appear, take the 2 spirits, and vanish into a glowing light. In the past, while dining with Zayla, Andre clutches his stomach in pain and collapses from his chair. In umbral, he lies on the ground in tattered underwear. The same spirits who once chased him return, calling him someone who killed himself. He scrambles backward and leans against a large stone as their faces close in. In the past, doctors surrounding him. One checks his pupils and signals he's dead, and they stop their efforts. Back in umbral, lying in despair, Andre prays for mercy with all his strength. He doesn't know how long it lasts, but finally, he is heard. A man in pristine clothes calls his name and kneels beside him. Andre pleads for help in God's name. The spirits protest, but the man calls Lysias and Tobias, who lift Andre onto a stretcher. Urging haste, the man extends his hand toward the spirits, who recoil. He joins the others, and they vanish into a bright light. They emerge in a lush, grassy landscape and carry him to a stone wall. The man raises his hand, light emanating from it, and the wall opens. They enter, and it seals behind them. He instructs them to take Andre to the Ministry of Regeneration. Andre awakens in a beautiful infirmary. Lysias introduces himself and helps him drink water. Andre asks many questions, but Lysias assures him they'll be answered in time. When Andre asks about medication, Lysias uncovers his wound and begins healing it with spiritual energy emanating from his hands, mending much of the damage. Lysias enters as Andre finishes his soup and tells him he'll start feeling more like himself now that he's eaten. Andre lies down and asks about his condition. Explaining he's a doctor, he tells him that he remembers suffering after his illness was discovered, with his wife and children by his side. Then the impossible happened. He died and awoke in that horrific place surrounded by monsters.
Acontece o impossível. Eu morro e acordo naquele lugar horrível.
Lysias responds that those spirits don't see themselves as monsters. When he calls them brothers, Andre objects, but Lysias ignores him and gives him water, insisting it's medicine. He tells Andre to hold it in his mouth as long as possible before leaving. Andre swallows it immediately, only to find it's just water. He tells the man in the next bed to swallow the water, and then when he won't stop talking, Andre gives him more water and tells him to hold it in his mouth for 5 hours. Lysias returns with more water and remarks that it is a medicine for patience, especially when someone won't stop complaining. While Andre insists he can't rest until he gets answers, the man who rescued him appears and introduces himself as Clarencio. Andre thanks him and complains about the injustice of his suffering. Clarencio tells him it's unfortunate he arrived as someone who killed himself. Andre denies it, insisting his body should show he died from illness. Lysias explains that the body records every action, and his illness was the result of the higher law of action and reaction. Moral behavior defines a person's path. Andre says he doesn't understand. Clarencio explains that anger, hatred, envy, egoism, and intolerance played a role. Lysias adds that the body has great reserves but can't withstand years of abuse. His gastrointestinal system was destroyed by excess. Many die this way, the result of unconsciously killing themselves. Clarencio urges him to rest, saying the best part of life is the chance to begin again. The next day, a glowing female form appears in the infirmary. She speaks to everyone, saying newcomers are often surprised by how much the place resembles Earth. They forget that mental creation shapes life and energy vibrates through many dimensions. Life continues and human relationships serve truth, whether accepted or not. The good we do is our eternal advocate. She calls the existence of the city a blessing, then vanishes in a flash. Lysias arrives to take Andre on a tour of the city. Walking outside, Lysias asks if he enjoyed Minister Veneranda's speech. Andre wonders how the image and message were created. Lysias tells him to change his thoughts. His recovery depends on it. It's called the law of harmony. When Andre asks if anger could send him back to Umbral, Lysias replies that it's always possible our thoughts and feelings guide us. Andre asks if his parents are there. Lysias teases that he thought Andre would be one of those insisting they were atheists, then reassures him that all will be revealed in time. They needed to catch the Airbus. An older woman calls out, recognizing him as Dr. Andre. She reminds him that he used to treat her and her husband for free. He remembers their suffering and asks if she's better. She remarks that she's dead, so she's better. She explains she's waiting for her ill husband to join her. When Lysias tells her Andre is a newcomer, she assumes he came straight to our home, skipping the dark place, calling him a good man. Before leaving, she reminds him her name is Amelia.
Amelia.
As the bus lifts off, Lysias points out key locations: the Ministry of Elevation and the Divine Union, which deals with higher spheres. He notes our home was built in the 16th century. They pass the Governance Palace and another building used for research and messages to the living called Enlightenment and Communication. He also points out the Ministry of Regeneration, where Andre is staying, next to the Reincarnation Pavilion, which he admits he doesn't like. When Andre asks why, Lysias replies, "You'll find out one day." Walking through the city, Andre sees people saying goodbye as they depart for rebirth. Slowly, he starts to accept this new reality. Our home is the true existence, while life on Earth is just a stage. He sits outside the gates, gazing at the earth and Tobias, who's planting flowers, who assures him he may see his family again one day, giving him a plant. Reflecting, Andre realizes he's still the same man, trapped by ego and mistakes of his past.
Só que eu ainda era o mesmo homem, preso aos meus próprios erros.
Later, Amelia calls out to him as he passes, but he pretends not to hear and enters the Ministry of Enlightenment. Inside, he interrupts a man working at a desk who introduces himself as Emmanuel.
Prazer, Emmanuel.
Prazer, André Luiz.
Andre explains he wants to send a message to his family. Emmanuel asks whether he prefers future or past technology. Andre chooses the familiar. Another man approaches Emmanuel, hoping to send his mother a message. Emmanuel says he'll notify him once there's permission to channel it through a receptive incarnate.
Agora você aguarda. Quando tiver permissão para ditar, eu lhe aviso.
Emmanuel finds Andre sitting in front of a notebook, struggling to begin. He advises him to visit Genesio at the Ministry of Assistance, saying he'll find what he needs there.
Você pode procurar o irmão Genésio no Ministério do Auxílio.
Andre enters a large hall filled with people seated in aisles. Genesio is speaking to two individuals at the front. Andre walks through the crowd and interrupts him, asking for help. Genesio says he'll assist after finishing with the others. The people murmur about Andre's rudeness. He apologizes and takes a seat near the back to wait his turn.
Com licença.
Andre waits until the room empties. Nearly dozing off, he hears Genesio call his name. He joins him and another woman on the dais.
Obrigada, ministro. Muito obrigada.
Genesio invites her to speak first. She asks to see her children, worried about them since her death. Genesio assures her that death doesn't break family bonds and asks how many bonus hours of service she's earned. She admits she has none and has been in our home for 6 years. He asks if she's found nothing meaningful to do in all that time, and she replies she's never needed to work. Geneseo explains that our home offers many opportunities, from food preparation to helping friends in recovery. She complains that it's all too tiring. He responds that all merit is earned through work and tells her to reflect on how her actions may still be rooted in pride and ego. He reminds them that service is a blessing in all forms.
Toda forma de servir é uma bênção.
Andre interrupts, asking if he can return to being a doctor. Geneseo replies that being a doctor in the spiritual realm may mean something different. Andre asks what he can do, and Geneseo tells him work, persistence, and merit go hand in hand. When the worker is ready, the work appears.
Persistência e o merecimento andam de mãos dadas.
Above Earth lies an ocean of invisible matter. The city of our home sits atop a range of spiritual mountains, just one of thousands hovering above the planet. At the gate, Tobias helps incoming spirits on stretchers and points Lysias to his newly arrived niece, Eloisa. Andre reflects that he never understood the mind's potential. People look as they did on Earth, but the real transformation must come from within. Standing beside Lysias, he watches Eloisa reunite with her uncle. A healer named Narcissa arrives, asks him to step aside. Overwhelmed, Andre faints. He wakes up to Tobias healing him, lying on a bed next to Eloisa's. Narcissa approaches his bed, and Andre apologizes. Andre sits in the garden, listening to a man play the piano. From afar, Clarencio guides Luisa to observe him. She devoted herself to raising him from birth, and Clarencio tells her her devotion only grew after his death. She confesses it hasn't been easy watching the life Andre chose. Clarencio assures her she's done her best and welcomes her to our home, promising she'll soon speak with her son.
Acredito que em breve vocês poderão conversar.
Andre flashes back to listening to his daughter playing the piano, sitting with his family having a harmonious time. He sits outside the gates when Emmanuel approaches and sits with him. Emmanuel tells him it's pointless to claim he's alive to others. Humans always need some form of spirituality. Andre admits he doesn't have a strong faith. Emmanuel asks if he has received authorization to send a message, and Andre replies he hasn't. Emmanuel suggests he speak with the governor.
Emmanuel não tem a sua fé.
Andre enters the governor's palace, where the governor greets him warmly. Andre explains that he needs to see his family, but the governor tells him that's not what troubles him the most. He explains that Andre spoke from the heart when he was found, and when the heart speaks, God speaks for us. The governor notes that Andre holds unconscious regret, and Andre apologizes for throwing away his life. The governor tells him that hearts are praying for him and directs him to his mother. There, Andre shares an emotional reunion with her. They walk in the gardens, and Andre asks why his father hasn't come to see him. His mother explains that he's in the nether regions, facing the consequences of his deeds. She says she doesn't have the right to speak of his father's actions, but confirms there's no chance Andre could see him now. He confesses his frustration about not being allowed to work, and she explains that free will is the law here. She expresses happiness that he's finding himself again.
Eu fico feliz que você já esteja se reencontrando.
She asks if he wishes to remain a free spirit or wait for time to unfold. She tells him she'll come when he needs her and vanishes in a flash, leaving him emotional. Andre heads to the receiving chambers and throws himself into hard work wherever he's needed. Narcissa notices him sweeping the floors and commends him for his dedication, pinning a badge on his lapel that signifies him as a member of the rectification chambers.
Você é membro das câmaras de retificação.
As they walk, Andre shares his worry with Lysias about where he'll stay since he was discharged from the hospital. They walk through the houses in the city, and Andre asks about housing. Lysias tells him he can't just buy a house like on Earth. He'll need to deserve it first.
Não é só acumular, preciso merecer, lembra?
Lysias then invites Andre to his house for a meal. At the table, Andre thanks Donna Laura for her kindness and Lysias for the invitation. She responds that the house is a shared conquest. Lysias explains that it took his father 18 years to obtain the house, and by the time Andre earns his own, Lysias will likely be reborn. Dona Laura invites Andre to stay with them, offering a spare room. The meal is served, but Eloisa suddenly snaps at them, accusing them of acting like a happy family, and storms out.
Por que vocês estão brincando de família feliz?
After the meal, Lysias talks about his next reincarnation, and Laura comments that the process isn't easy. It requires careful planning. Andre excuses himself from the table, noticing Eloisa standing outside.
Laura, me desculpe. Vocês me dão licença?
Pois não.
Andre approaches Eloisa, seeing her determined to return. He urges her to focus on recovery, reminding her that others are in worse condition. He admits he didn't even receive the prayers she saw. She snaps back, saying maybe no one liked him, and goes inside.
Orações dos parentes na terra.
Vai ver, ninguém gostava de você.
In the message center, Andre checks and finds only 2 prayers sent for him. Confused, he watches as a card is inserted into the device. He sees his mother praying over him in the hospital after surgery. The second image shows Amelia sending blessings for him and his family. Laura tells Eloisa that her husband has been reborn as a small boy, living new material experiences. Sometimes, she says, they meet in dreams when possible. She explains that Eloisa will learn to cope with temporary separations and that family ties built with love are eternal. Everything born of vanity and pride is painfully lost. Eloisa snaps that she doesn't want to learn and then apologizes, lays on her lap, saying she's missed her.
Eu senti muita falta da senhora.
Amelia waits by the gates, hoping to see her husband among the newly arrived spirits, but is disappointed. Andre sees her in the garden, and she tells him her husband has died but hasn't arrived. He comforts her gently. In the house, Eloisa walks out at a fast pace. Andre follows her beyond the city gates. She insists she won't wait years to return and disappears despite his insistence that it won't work. Back at the house, everyone is worried over her departure. Sitting outside, Andre listens to Emmanuel's lecture, recounting a reincarnated version of himself who once met Christ in a dream, a single radiant moment that transformed his life. Emmanuel asks them how many moments are needed to rebuild a lost past.
Quantos anos são necessários para reconstruir o passado?
In September 1939, spirits of a higher order descend from the skies. A clarion sounds. The governor addresses the city, declaring that human life is at a breaking point. A global war has begun, and he calls for greater service, as many souls will return from Earth.
Amados irmãos,
Cidadãos,
As the world descends into war, spirits return in waves. The spiritual cities unite in prayer and peace work. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Together, the citizens of our home welcome the fallen with warmth and compassion. Andre, now more at peace, begins writing a long text in the message center. Lysias finds Eloisa in a dire state after obsessively trying to push through the thick layers of umbral to reach her fiancé on Earth. Andre tends to her in the healing chambers with spiritual energy. She tells him he was right. He reassures her that her questions will be answered in time. He says he's learned a lot from her and reflects that while it's vital to learn from every experience, the past cannot be changed. Andre returns to the house and finds it empty. He bids farewell to Doña Laura, who has decided to reincarnate. She tells him that evolution is essential and that some lessons can only be learned on Earth. She explains that they've planned a life that should go well and asks him to look after Eloisa. She shares her hope of Eloisa being reborn as her daughter, believing she may teach her greater acceptance. Andre consoles Lysias as his family departs. He continues working in the healing chambers and finishes writing the spiritual text he has been writing, which he leaves on Emmanuel's desk. Later, Lysias tells him that his reincarnation process is under review and informs him that his mother has already been reborn. Andre consoles him about the loss of his mother. He shares the news that he has been approved to visit his family, finally granted permission. Andre reflects on how much he has changed. The man who had arrived at our home 10 years ago, who believed himself the king of his domain, obsessed with status and possessions, is gone. He goes outside the gates to visit Earth.
Esse homem não existia mais.
He returns to his old house on Earth and discovers that his wife Zayla has remarried. He watches her care for her new husband, Ernesto, and is overwhelmed with pain when he sees their tenderness. In a surge of emotion, he storms out. He wanders into the umbral once more, haunted by flashes of his past suffering in that place. After some time, he reemerges and returns to Earth. At his former home, he finds his daughter, Clarice, now a grown woman, speaking with Zayla. Clarice says she misses her father. Her brother enters, uncertain if he feels the same. Clarice says she read that people don't really die, but her brother disagrees, citing science. She tells him he sounds like their father. He replies that it's probably why he has decided to become a doctor. Andre smiles, delighted. Later, their younger sister, Maria Clara, enters and sits at the piano. Andre gently guides her toward a melody. Clarice joins her, showing her how to continue the song. Maria Clara asks what their father was like. Clarice responds that he was a good man, but always very busy, strict, and austere. She says she never saw him cry. Still, she reassures her that he loved them, and that's what matters.
Mas eu não tô entendendo nada.
Não precisa.
Andre watches as his family gathers around Maria Clara while she plays. It is a peaceful, healing moment. Meanwhile, Emmanuel shares Andre's written volume of text with Clarencio. In it, Andre writes, "Life does not cease. Death is a dark illusion. Closing the body's eyes does not define destiny. One must navigate the drama of existence until they find the path of spiritual evolution. Only then does one reach the waters of the divine ocean. And existence is an act. Death is merely the breath of renewal. I will not suffer for eternity because I now know that it is always possible to begin again." Emmanuel tells Clarencio he did not expect such an intense awakening from Andre.
Eu não podia imaginar que o despertar pudesse ser tão intenso.
Moved by love and forgiveness, Andre asks Zayla silently for forgiveness and fills the jug of water beside Ernesto's bed with healing energy. He descends the stairs, and on his way out, their housekeeper Ismalia senses his presence and blesses him. He leaves after expressing his gratitude. The next morning, Ernesto awakens feeling well, telling Zayla he drank the entire jug of water, compelled by a mysterious inner urging. Maria Clara places her father's photograph on her piano and plays a song in his honor. Andre is received back warmly into our home with love and affection. They go inside, and Clarencio tells him there's work among the Samaritans if he's interested. He also tells him that their friend Chico, on Earth, would like to meet him regarding the matter of his book. Andre Luis continues to work at our home colony to this day. He has written 16 books with the guidance of the medium Chico Xavier about life in the spiritual world.